Hey guys! So this video is going to be my top 10 books I read in 2013. The first book I would like to mention, number 10, is Before I Die by Jenny Downham. Before I Die tells the story of Tessa. She's a 16-year-old girl suffering from cancer, and she has just been told by her doctors that she is actually going to die a lot sooner than they all thought. And that's when she decides to create a top 10 list of things that she wants to do before she dies. So this book takes us on her journey and shows what she learns from doing these things. The one aspect of this book that I really loved is the juxtaposition between her father and her mother and how they're coping with the fact that their firstborn child has this disease and it is killing her slowly. Her father is so engrossed in finding a cure for his daughter's illness to the point where that's all he thinks about and that's all he cares about. And then we have her mother who doesn't want to have anything to do with her illness, and it's just such an interesting thing to read about. Now, the ninth book I'm going to talk about is Allegiant by Veronica Roth. It's the third book in the Divergent series, and if you haven't read the Divergent series, where the hell have you been? Okay, I'm not going to say a lot about this book because it is the third book in a series, but oh my god, this book made me feel all the feels, and I was in a complete and total depression after reading this book. My eighth favorite book that I read in 2013 goes to My Life Next Door by Huntley Fitzpatrick. The romance between Samantha and Jace is just so cute. Reading this book gave me so much anxiety. I felt like I was Samantha and I was going through what she was going through. If a book is able to make you feel like you are in the story, that is an awesome book right there. My seventh favorite book in 2013 is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I read this after I got completely obsessed with the Lizzie Bennet diaries. This book is so cute and romantic and lovely, and I really want Mr. Darcy to be real. If you haven't read Pride and Prejudice, I highly, highly recommend you reading it. My sixth favorite book that I read in 2013 was Pushing the Limits by Katie McGarry. This book has had a lot of hype around it, and rightly so. This book, I love it. I love it so much. I actually reread this book earlier this month, and it is even better the second time around. The one aspect of the story that I really loved was the feeling that I was growing right along with Echo and Noah. And as the story goes on and you start to learn more about these antagonists, you realize that they aren't bad people. They're just trying to do what they think is best. And that just shows how amazing Katie McGarry is as a writer. I just am so excited to read her other books. My number 5 favorite books of 2013, City of Glass, which is the third book in the Mortal Instruments series, and we have Clockwork Princess, the third and final book in the Infernal Devices series. Oh god, where do I begin with either of these two series? I read this book close to the end of 2013. I got this as a Christmas present and I devoured it. This is my favorite book out of the Infernal Devices series because it is just so action-packed right from the get-go. You're right into the action, right into the tension and the amazingness, and just all the characters are just so perfect in this, and I love them all. And oh my god, William Herondale, marry me. It is the perfect ending to a perfect series. Now on to City of Glass. This is my favorite book out of the Mortal Instruments series. The Mortal Instruments series is just so good, and I'm mentally slapping myself for taking so long to read this series. And I cannot wait to read City of Heavenly Fire because, oh, so many things. I'm scared though. If you haven't read any of Cassandra Clare's books yet, Like, what is your life? And my fourth favorite book of 2013 is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Where do I begin? I don't even know where to begin. This book just speaks for itself. I mean, it has the name John Green on it. There's nothing else I can say about this book except read it, because if you haven't read it, like, what is your life? You're on the internet right now. John Green is the internet. If you haven't read any of his books, blasphemy. It's a thing you have to do. Now you're probably thinking to yourselves, Emily, if The Fault in Our Stars is your number 4 favorite book of 2013, what could possibly beat that? Well, I'm going to attempt. My third favorite book of 2013 is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. Honestly, don't even know how to explain this story, because this book is just so beautifully written. The fact that death is the narrator, and you grow to love and hate him in equal parts. You really fall in love with Liesel and her family, and just all of these characters are just so interesting. I cried so much reading this book, just so many tears. Please read The Book Thief, because that story really touched my heart and my soul, and it's just such a beautiful little story. My second favorite book of 2013 is Killing Sarai by J.A. Wedmurski. This is the first book in the Company of Killers series. This book tells the story of Sarai. She has been living on a compound for the past 9 years, since she was 14 years old, and ever since the day that she arrived at the compound, she has been hoping for the day that she can finally escape. And the story starts off with her finally seeing an opportunity, and so begins this crazy and action-packed book. There's actually a funny story as to how I obtained Killing Sarai. I was sent to jury duty, so I was trapped in a assembly room, dying of boredom. I had my Kindle with me. So I had a ton of sample ebooks to read, and then I got to Killing Sarai. So I bought it right then and there, and I couldn't put it down. I don't know how I would have survived jury duty without this book. So I have a very strong attachment to this book, and I am so excited to read Reviving Isabel. And now, finally, my number 1 favorite book of 2013 is Every Day by David Levithan. When I first heard about Every Day, I found the synopsis, everything about it, rather confusing, and it sounded pretty cheesy. Do I regret ever thinking those things about this book? It is just the most beautifully written book. There are just so many aspects of this book that I love. The story is just so interesting, and it's so unique. I fell in love with David Levithan's writing, and I really want to read more of his stories. I really recommend this book. So that is my list of my top 10 favorite books I read in 2013. I'm going to do you guys a huge favor and put the Goodreads links to all the books I mentioned in this video down in the boxer drawer below. So you really have no excuse not to check all of these books out.